Hey, good morning. Thanks for joining us. We're here with Cody Smith, owner of Dynamic Pest Control. Cody, thanks for being in.
I'm Josh Farley, president of Redline Electric and Solar. Join me as we talk to contractors, business owners, and experts who are willing to share their experiences to help you overcome obstacles when you're taking your business up and to the right.
So I am the owner of Dynamic Pest Control. We're a pest control termite business here in the Valley, and we pretty much take care of homeowners that have pest control needs.
So your business is different in the sense that you guys have a route or an area that you work in. Tell us how that whole thing works.
So more or less, yes, we have kind of a reoccurring revenue stream in the sense of we have monthly, every other month, quarterly accounts that need service on a regular basis. And so those people are kind of clockwork, where we set them up in routes, and we have a tech who oversees that route and kind of runs that route on a regular basis.
So I think for my business, I've always thought about trying to get something that was recurring because it helps with cash flow. Do you do time and material work? Do you do estimating work outside of that?
We do. So a lot of the other side of the business is more with property management and commercial side, where we do a lot of bidding on certain jobs, whether it's rodent work, termite work, pigeon exclusion, and
Bees.
things like that, bee removal. Exactly.
You put the suit on
Exactly.
and go
Get
save
the
the
suit
people.
on and go crazy.
My
And,
daughter just got stung by a bee.
and you'd be amazed at with that suit. You would think you don't get stung, but I've been stung, and my guys have been stung many a time.
In the suit?
Through the suit.
What?
Right through the suit.
That's what
Yeah.
it's there for.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
you need a better suit. How did you get started?
So my dad was actually in the business. I grew up in it. I had no intention of wanting to be a bug man the rest of my life, because that's what I looked at my dad as.
The bug guy.
The bug guy. And so I remember in college I enjoyed all the business classes, and I was studying business management, entrepreneurial business. And so I think one day it just kind of struck me that it didn't matter what the business was as far as what we did. I enjoyed the business structure of it. And so when I got out of college, I came back, and my dad's business was kind of a one-man show. And so I thought, this is something where maybe we could join forces and do something together as a family, and at the same time benefit, as a whole as far as growing this. And so my whole thing was, I came to my dad and said, I know it's not big enough for the both of us, so I'll start kind of working and do what I can, and eventually I want to get it to where I can just start growing and building it up. And so that's kind of what we did.
So having that business, it's more of a scalable model, and then I assume you niche in a few certain areas?
So we have a few different, there are a lot of areas that you can kind of niche in each of those categories, as far as termites, bees, your general pests, rodents, pigeons, those kinds of things. We also have found a little niche in the sense of retirement communities, and so we've gotten into some retirement communities to where we go in a couple times a year as they're coming in. Being here in the Valley, we've got a lot of snowbirds that come in.
Yep.
And so when they come in, they want their place sprayed in October, and so we do a whole big group spray at certain places where we can have a guy there, and he's just door to door all the way down servicing. And so it works out for us because we can do a lot in a little amount of time, and at the same time it gets all these people taken care of, and so we do that for them.
Gotcha. So that's a focus. That's like one of the golden customers that you have, and you focus on that. So when your guys are at a place, do you have them leave behind some stuff at the neighbor's house, or?
We have in the past in different times where we've left kind of a flyer that kind of explains that we were just at your neighbor's and that kind of a thing. Yes.
We've talked before about how you grow your business. And I know you do it mostly by acquisition.
Correct.
Walk us through something like that.
So I found that through acquisition, I can pay typically less than what it would cost me to go through and do a big sales team, sales force to grow. And I guess it depends on the economy and where we're at and things like that. But I have found over the last probably 10 to 15 years that every 2 or 3 years, I'll go on and start looking to see a business that I could possibly acquire. And a lot of them are just little mom and pop, onesie, twosie, little shops. But over time, it's been great, and it's been very beneficial. I think one of the key things in acquisitions is making sure that it's the right fit.
Right.
For your company. And so I may look at 2 or 3 different businesses over a 3 to 4 year period, but only pick one of those businesses that really works for us. Even though the other businesses are great and wonderful, I think the key is making sure that it's the right fit. And by the right fit, I mean, for us, do they have the same core values that we have? Do they treat their customers the same way we treat? And do they treat, as in actually service their customers similar to how we service? So we're not, breaking things up and making it different for the customer experience. Right. It's very similar. So when we transfer over to our business and acquire them, it's a very seamless transition, in the sense that we can come in and it's almost as if the same company is still servicing their home.
Which would be great. I mean, I have a bug guy, and if a new guy came in and was even better, I'd be like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. What do you think the number one reason they're selling their business?
A lot of times it's circumstantial. Might be, an owner that has been in the business for a long time and he's ready to retire and get out. Yep. Might be a young guy who got into it and decided that 5 years down the road he doesn't like what he's doing and wants to go off and do something else.
Do you acquire employees with the company?
Sometimes, depends on if it's the right fit. I think that right fit is always the key term that I use as I'm going through, whether it's the technicians, the customers, what they're doing. It's got to be that right fit. And so, yeah, if it's the right fit, we'll take on. I've got a technician with us right now. Been with me for 10 years, and he was one of those that was through an acquisition.
Really?
Yeah, phenomenal guy. And
well, I know we use the EOS, the traction model, and they talk about right people, right seats, and then they also talk about GWC. If they get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to handle it.
Right.
So those all align around our core values. So I assume the same for you.
Exactly.
Where do you find these businesses?
To be honest, a lot of them come through Craigslist.
And he told me that, and I couldn't believe. I'm like, people sell businesses on Craigslist, and you actually bought one from Craigslist, and they worked. Yeah,
so it is a lot of sifting.
Yep.
And so you do have to kind of sift through and make sure it's the right fit. But it's amazing, and I think it's maybe just our industry where they don't know where to go, and so they do go to Craigslist. They'll also go through a broker, and so I have a broker that kind of keeps me in line of what's out there and things like that.
Gotcha.
Also, just word of mouth. I talk to my vendors who talk to a lot of businesses out there, and so I'm always letting them know, hey, I'm always looking, so let me know if you find anyone. And so just putting it out there, I'll have somebody say, hey, so-and-so I heard might be selling his business, you might look into it. And so I'll give them a call.
Well, I mean, we struggle to find people and new work. It's a process that we go through. So I imagine, if there's a smaller electrical contractor out there that's either done or ready to retire or just doesn't want to do it anymore, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
How do you finance something like that?
So there's so many different ways. Every time we sit down and we kind of go through what they're looking for. And so oftentimes you can get a guy to carry, and that would be the preferred method as far as
what do you mean?
So if you can go in and have a guy carry the loan, more or less what you're doing is you're taking on and acquiring the business, and you're making monthly payments to him.
Gotcha.
Over a span of period of time, whether it's a year or 5 years, however.
Gotcha.
You can negotiate that out.
And so, you've done that?
And so I've done that. I've done that with a small, maybe down payment, and then a monthly payment over as little as 18 months, and I've done it as long as 5 years.
Gotcha.
So it just depends on the negotiating there and how you can make the deal a win-win for both situations.
I don't know if I was ever going to sell. I don't know if I would want to do that. I just want the money. Just give me the money so I can get out of town.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, because in that particular case, he takes the risk, because if you were to not just stop paying, he could take the company back, but you may have left it in disarray. That's the risk he takes.
For sure. And there's definitely risk on both ends. As a buyer, I'm trying to take as much little risk or as little risk as possible.
Right.
And so as a seller, obviously he wants to do the same thing. And so you've got to come to that agreement where there's some compromises here and there. For me, I feel like I have the leverage because I don't have to buy his business. I can move on to something else. And so
Sure.
So that just comes out of
So in an agreement like that, let's say 5 years, does he come in and look at the books? Are you keep him abreast of what the situation is, or?
It depends on who it is.
Gotcha.
Some guys have completely trusted me and just let me do my thing, which I'm a trustable guy, so I'm honest and I take care of them.
That's all the cons say.
But at the same time, there have been guys that wanted a quarterly report,
Right.
to where I would send them a quarterly report of what's being sold and what we're doing with their business and everything
Just
like
they have
that.
some idea.
The other way to do it would be just to finance through a bank, and I've done that where we've just negotiated a price. I go to the bank, I get the loan, and I pay them off, with upfront,
Right.
and then I make payments to the bank as far as whatever that term is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what are your plans moving forward? Are you still looking?
It's a good
are you
question.
still looking for businesses to buy?
So yes, I am.
Want to be an electrician?
Yeah, there you go. I am looking for other businesses to buy. I think it's a timing thing, and so I usually wait to start getting that itch to
Right.
where I need, I'm looking for that, and then it just seems to happen. And so I think when you mentally kind of put yourself into a mode of wanting to get something done, then the universe and everything else starts to hand it to you. So
What are some of the struggles that you've had, and how'd you get over those?
family businesses are tough.
Yep.
I always said our situation was the best of family businesses because I got to see my dad every day and interact with him, but then we kind of had a setup to where I ran the business and he ran a route because that's what he always did and that's what he loved doing.
Yep.
And so he'd come in and get his route and go, and then come back and we'd chat and talk and this and that. So we really had, if you could call a family business the best scenario, we really had the best scenario, but still, he was, a couple generations older than me. So
Sure.
we had this issue of what I wanted to do with the business and what I saw and how I saw it moving forward and what he had already done in his life and the experiences that he had and things that wouldn't work and had his mindset, on the old school way of doing business.
Right.
And so it was really hard, and we had a lot of kind of knockdown drag-outs trying to make decisions on where the business was going, for the future.
Gotcha.
And so that, I think, of all struggles is a real one because it comes home with you. Your situation at home and with family and going to family events and functions, and now you've got this issue that's going on at work, and I've got to be normal with my dad because he's family.
Right.
So it really made it hard.
And it makes it tough for Thanksgiving dinners.
Totally.
Unless you're having a good month, right? For sure.
Exactly.
Let's talk about what are you doing to raise the value of your business besides acquisition? Like, what are you doing internally?
So for me, I am a systems guy in the sense of I really try to set up my business so that it can run itself and so that it's a turnkey operation, so that down the road eventually, at that time where I decide, you know what, I want to be acquisitioned, I want
Right.
I want to be sold. And so when that time comes, it's a set it and forget it mentality where somebody can take us on and it's just automatic and it's just running itself. And so that's kind of where I am right now as far as just making sure that those systems are in place so that it is kind of on autopilot.
So
and
you're
can continue
creating
to
those
run.
processes or those systems yet? Or
Yeah,
are they,
so
or,
a lot of them are over time have come in
Yep.
and kind of figured themselves out. But I think right now I'm a little bit more intentional in those processes and making sure that they're actually set up, that even though I have the right people in the right seats,
Right.
that's not always going to be the case, and you're kind of ebbing and flowing with what's
Sure.
going on. And so I'm trying to be more intentional with making sure that those systems are set up so that when somebody comes in, they just know what to do and can move forward.
Well, I took approximately 5 weeks off this year to spend time with family and doing some things that I want to do. And without those processes in place, I would never been able to do that. My team would be like, what's going on? And so you definitely need to put it down, get it out of your head,
Yeah.
document it, delegate it, as Ronzio would always tell us when we talk to him sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but it makes, and it's 100% makes your business valuable, because what is your business going to do if you don't show up to work?
Right now, it'll just keep going.
Right.
It really is on autopilot, and so it works out well. And I'll tell you something that's, I think, difficult for us. We're all entrepreneurs. We're in the position that we're in as owners of businesses because we don't want to be told what to do. We want the control, right?
Yep.
So about just over 2 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with leukemia, and he was given 2 to 4 weeks to live. And in that time, I spent maybe 15 minutes to 30 minutes a day at the office because I was spending time with my dad.
Sure.
And so in that month, I delegated out everything that I was doing on a regular basis for the business. And I remember after that month thinking, you know what, I don't care what happens to the business because I just want to spend time with my dad. He lived to 4 weeks in a day. So, and when he passed away, I remember going back to the office thinking, oh, what is the headache that I'm going to be dealing with? And after that month, we had one of our best months of the year. And ever since then, it just continued. And I realized at that point, I'm in my own way as far as the business and its growth.
Right.
And so I never got back into doing those things that I had delegated out. I let them continue. And that was a huge moment for me to realize, get out of the way and let your company and let your people do what they're supposed to do.
I see a lot of that. There's some times where I'll let somebody do something and it won't be exactly how I would have done it. Might have got 90% there, which is probably better than anybody else. But if I'd have just let that 10% go, I could just get behind it. And it took me years to realize that 90% is still 90% of just where I'm standard. It's not my customer standards, just my standards, which is still done correctly.
Yeah.
There's just some things that, you got to let go as a business owner.
And I think
especially if you're the one that's doing the work.
Right, and once you do, you realize that other people can do it,
Right.
And they may not be as great as you, but you can't do everything forever. And in your business, you want to be able to hopefully enjoy life
Sure.
because of the business that you have. And so that comes with being able to leave for 5 weeks and
Right.
not having to worry about things, and everything can take care of itself.
What do you think contractors can do to make their business better? I know that we run typical, similar businesses.
Yeah.
We both deal with service guys in the field, and
I think customer experience is huge, and the relationships that you create with your customers. I think that we live in a day and age where loyalty is hard to find because
right.
Everyone's out to save $1 here and there and everything. But I think when it comes down to, if you have good relationships and a good customer experience with your customers, they want you to come back. They want to stay with you. And so I think it's super important that you have that customer experience, that the people walk away knowing that you're honest and you have integrity and all those wonderful core values that are going to help you sustain your business for the long haul.
Gotcha. If you didn't do this, what would you do?
I'd probably do some consulting of some sort in the
Right.
business world. I enjoy business. I've always loved that. I would love to be some kind of a consultant, almost like a life consultant, just as far as keeping balance in work and in family life and everything else.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
I sleep actually really well.
That's good.
I really do.
That's what happens when you have a smooth running business, especially if all the processes are in place, you can get a good night's sleep.
That has been key, and I think that's something my dad always taught me. Is I felt like whenever he was away from the business as a kid, he was fully present in whatever we were doing, sports and all kinds of stuff. And I think that's kind of how I am when I check out from work. I leave the office and I don't think about it until the next day when I'm coming back.
You ever think about quitting?
I think there are definitely days where you're, I think as business owners, the one customer that calls and complains about something,
Right.
it dwells on you. Even though you've got thousands of other customers that are completely happy with you, the one customer is the one that really,
The
gets
one
to
that
you.
nobody can make happy,
Exactly,
no matter
yeah.
who they are. Yeah.
And so I think there are definitely days where I think maybe I'm not cut out for this, or maybe I need to do something else. But I think that if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth it
Sure.
to me. And so I think even though you have those moments, I think I try to make those moments smaller and smaller, and just having a positive attitude that, you know what, this will pass, and tomorrow will be another day, and we'll get to make, more people happy and everything else.
Well, let's give your coaching a test.
Uh-oh.
Give us your top advice for somebody just starting out.
If you were just starting out in the business, I think the key thing is to set up those core values and kind of what your mission is, and then and those core values need to be you.
Sure.
So whoever you are, that's what those core values need to be. And then I think moving forward, do everything you can to hire and make decisions for your business revolving around those values.
Right.
Because I think I lucked into it, and fortunately for me, that without thinking about it in the beginning, as we were hiring, doing things, I hired people that were similar to my style and personality. And once I realized the core values that we needed to have and everything else that were revolved around how I lived my life, I realized that I was fortunate that we already had some guys that were already there. And so now hiring to that has been so much easier, and I think it's made that core so much stronger that, it can last.
No, core values are number one in our business. We hire and review by those things. We use them we used our core values to create our scorecard, which is what our employees know that we're judging them on or reviewing them on. I appreciate your advice. I appreciate you coming in and telling everybody about your story. If somebody wants to talk to you, how do they get a hold of you?
So you can reach me, Dynamic Pest Control, www.dynamicpestcontrol.com. You can email me at cody@dynamicpestcontrol.com. I'd be glad to give any information that I can to help the fellow
He's looking
business
for
owners
business
out there.
coach testimonials for his
That's
future
right.
business.
There you go.
Thanks for coming in. I
Hey,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like what we're doing here, subscribe to our podcast at iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, and to our YouTube channel to see more episodes. Go to upandtotherright.org to get all the links.